Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a dog with you on a Monday, the 6th of November, 2017. Another edition of Weber This Week is on tap. Today we have Greg Lazzaro in the studio. We were expecting Deputy Supervisor, my good friend Lou Ferrara, but he has had grandchildren duty today. I can relate to that. So, Lou, we're going to miss you on the air, but I'm sure we'll have you back down the road. Well, it's, election day tomorrow. Let me not forget to remind everybody. I know Greg will agree with me. Let's get out and vote tomorrow, regardless of the candidate you're pulling for or voting for. Get out and be a part of the American system. So again, tomorrow, Election Day 2017, and we certainly hope that you get out and do your duty and vote. Well, without further ado, it's good to bring in Greg Lazzaro. Greg, thanks for coming in. By the way, our new look here at the studios is kind of nice. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Harold. It's good to be here. And just a little take on Election Day.
Yes.
Election Day is very important. Elections do have consequences, and I would expect to see a good turnout.
I hope so, too. Well, we're going to cover a lot of topics, and the reason Greg is in today, and I had Lou arrive as well, but unfortunately can't make it today, is a couple weeks ago on the Josh Dershel Show, Josh interviewed a couple of individuals, running for a seat tomorrow. Of course, Dave DeLalis, an incumbent, who's hopefully trying to get reelected, and a newbie, Doug Avery, is trying to get on the board for the first time. And they kind of were a little disparaging toward the board and its present makeup. And I decided to bring in Greg along with Lou, and Greg's going to be speaking on behalf of Lou and other members relative to getting his side of the views that were brought up during that interview that my friend and talented Josh Dershel did. So without further ado, Greg, let's get right to it. A lot has been said. And I guess, there's an old line that I like to use. It's sort of something that I thought about before I came over to the studios today. I was going to say that you and Lou Ferrara have taken so many rights lately, you guys are begging for a left. And it's only fitting that I use that term because, in a way, they have you portrayed as the evil master of the town of Seneca Falls. For whatever reason, I don't know. I've watched a lot of your presentations on the board meetings via Channel 12. I go to bed too early to come to your meetings. But, during the discussion with Josh, Doug Avery made a clear point, and I want to share his point with you and have you respond. And I asked that if you respond sort of in a short term because we have a lot of topics to get to. The topic, or the discussion by Doug Avery, was, in his view, with your leadership, you have created a toxic atmosphere for the town of Seneca Falls. And I want to give you an opportunity to comment on that.
Well, that was from a person with a different point of view. Mm-hmm. And I guess politics has become almost, if you don't agree with me, you're toxic and evil. Right. And that's, I don't hold to that idea. Mm-hmm. I hold that everyone has a right to their opinion, everyone can speak, and we need to dialogue about those issues. And I believe that we have dialogued. The issue is, as people call it, transparency. That's become a very common word in government and politics today. I believe the issue is open and honest government. People have to understand the real meaning of the word transparency. It means open and honest government. We believe that we have given that to the people of Seneca Falls. We might not always agree, but transparency does not mean an agreement. It means open and honest government.
Okay, fine. Let me ask you a question. A flyer came out, and it looked like your picture. You told me before airtime it was not. Relative to Local Law 3 will be devastating. Major cuts would be made if it's not rescinded. Possible police removal as far as the police department. The rec center would be at opportunity of maybe closing down because of expenses, etc. A lot of things were put in this flyer indicating maybe a scare tactic. You've obviously seen the flyer. How did you respond to it? And what is your reaction to that? And where do you think you're going with this? I mean, people with Kyle Black and Marc Benjamin representing Seneca Meadows, I know you either love Seneca Meadows and want them here, or you hate Seneca Meadows and you want them to close tomorrow. It's really not a major issue in my mind. It's one way or the other, and you have a different view. You always made the comment to me when you first came on my show, you would rather mediate than litigate. Is that your same theory?
I still believe that sitting down, talking, communicating with a group is a lot better than taking them to court. As for, I know a lot of people feel you either love Seneca Meadows or hate Seneca Meadows. It's not that type of issue. They're a business in town. They've been a long-term business in town who adhere to as strict as the standards put up by the health department and the DEC. They continue to do that. And those standards change year to year because those standards are changing. And they continue to work with the town of Seneca Falls. I believe that when you have a business, you can't pass a law that impacts that business singularly. You have to sit down and talk. Now, you talk about the cuts that might happen or could happen. Well, those cuts would not happen if Seneca Meadows was to close. Could those cuts happen? Yes. Those cuts wouldn't happen if you had a 300% increase in taxes. And those are based upon a memo that the board asked our budget analyst, budget officer, to put out. I think it was in April of 16 or March of 16 she put it out. And that analysis was made of what would happen if we lost Seneca Meadows. Right. And that analysis was made by an expert. And people immediately jumped on it and said that it's either scare tactics, or other people said, we don't mind if our taxes are raised that much because we want Seneca Meadows to be closed down. Well, there's a lot of people in town who came to me at that point, and I was feeling a little differently at that time. My feelings were going, perhaps we have come to the end of our relationship with Seneca Meadows. But enough people came to me and said, Greg, we cannot afford to have our taxes raised. A lot of people in this town are making $20 an hour. $20 an hour is $40,000 a year. That's not enough to live on. People have a lot of money. Yep. They seem to forget about the less fortunate in our town. Then you talk about the less fortunate in town. Who does Seneca Meadows help? They help all the nonprofits, 3 of them. Right. Habitat for Humanity, the ARC, many food programs, a backpack program for kids who need healthy snacks. And this helps the less fortunate in town. We as a government could help, but then that would bring up our taxes. And Seneca Meadows is doing that because of their good faith work with the community. And I think we need that. And when we sat down with them, we started talking about, and we wanted to negotiate a new host agreement that would help the town even more and help the nonprofits even more. And I think we were on a good track until after last election. And I've always said elections have consequences. The 2 people who were running for a set closure date for a local law lost, and they pushed through a local law. Right. That is why, at this point, before elections, I'm holding still on what direction we go in, because I want to hear from the people. And I really and truly believe that elections have consequences, and we'll wait. If certain people have voted in, we'll go in one direction. Right. If certain people have voted in, we'll go in another direction. That's how government works. And I don't think the other side understands that.
Very well said. Now, Mr. DeLalis, again, Greg Lazzaro is my special guest today. We were expecting Lou Ferrara, Deputy Supervisor, but he has grandchildren watch today, and I can relate to that. And Lou, I hope you're having a good time with your grandkids today, and we do miss you here in the studio. Mr. DeLalis, during the interview with Josh Durso along with Doug Avery, made the comment, one of many that he made, relative to a situation that took place prior to adopting Local Law 2, which of course now is held up because of the court system and regarding a decision made recently. The story goes like this, according to Dave DeLalis, and I do have it on my phone in case anybody wants verification of it. Supposedly you were getting set for a meeting, and from what Dave DeLalis indicated to Josh Durso, that he was on his way to the meeting, and he met Tom Ruzicka in the hallway walking to the meeting, and quote-unquote Dave DeLaylis indicated that Mr. Ruzicka was going to not support the vote on Local Law 2 to make it. They got in the meeting room, and according to Dave DeLaylis, you had asked Tom Ruzicka to come out of the room for a few minutes, and he went back in the room after your meeting with him, and basically the vote took place a few minutes later, and according to Dave DeLaylis, the vote went the opposite way that he thought it was going to go. Tom voted for Local Law 2, so I'm going to give you a chance to make a comment on that. Did that indeed happen? Did you take him to the teacher's office, superintendent's office, or maybe explain to our viewers what took place, if it's true, what Dave DeLaylis is contending took place?
Okay, I can't speak to a private conversation between Dave DeLaylis and Councilman Ruzicka.
Right.
What I can speak to is we were having many meetings under attorney-client privilege because we were discussing a local law, and when you propose local law, and when you discuss proposed local laws, you have to have attorney-client privilege. And because those are privileged conversations at that point, and you have to discuss the issues. Besides the attorney-client privilege meetings we were having, I was talking to each councilman individually on how I felt that this vote should go. I spoke to Mr. DeLaylis, I spoke to Mr. Peretta, I spoke to Mr. Ruzicka, and I spoke to Mr. Ferrara. I can't speak to private conversations they had with other councilmen, but I know I was having those private conversations. The reason you have those private conversations is because at no time, except under executive session rules or attorney-client privilege rules, can you have more than two councilmen in a room together, two voting members in a room together, more than two voting members, because that would be a forum, and you could potentially impact the vote at that point. So yes, I was speaking to each and every councilman at that point, and I had my discussions. I must have convinced Tom Ruzicka to vote one way. He voted with me. I was very happy. If he had voted the other way, that's how elections go. That's how votes go. You raise your hand. I believe once those votes are taken, you move on from them.
Well, another comment was made by the other member of the Josh Dershel interview, and that was Doug Avery. He made a comment which caught my attention relative to the DEC meeting that was held at Minders Academy, as you're certainly well aware of. You were there, and basically from what Doug Avery advised via the interview with Josh, he indicated that some of Doug's colleagues who are trying to close Seneca Meadows, and if Doug had his way, without due respect to Doug Avery, I like Doug, they were closed tonight at 5. But the truth be known, Doug had a feeling along with the other folks in the room that the DEC would be issuing a permit for the continuation of Seneca Meadows, which we all know now has happened. I believe it was an 8-year permit, correct, Greg?
Yes.
All right. And Doug Avery made it his comments were that him and his colleagues that were against Seneca Meadows, and they didn't feel that the vibe was going too well in the meeting, that after the meeting or at the close of the meeting, they were all assembled at the back of Minders Academy's auditorium. And he made the comment that he would have hoped that you would have taken time out as a town supervisor to console the people that were concerned about them getting the permit again. And instead, you were in the back of the room talking to Marc Benjamin, who's a good friend of mine, and I will be honest with you, I like Marc. Instead of consoling the people that you knew full well were against Seneca Meadows continuing. So I'm asking you basically, how do you respond to that?
Well, yes, I was there during the 2 sessions of the meeting. In fact, someone, I believe it was Mr. Avery, took a picture of me and he posted it on Facebook, and he made a comment about it. And on that day, Marc did approach me as I was standing by myself in back of the room. As you're walking out of the auditorium, it was on the right side. And Marc did approach me. I spoke to him like I would have spoken to anyone. But a threat had been made on my life of
Sure.
Mr. Black's, and I was advised to wait for an escort out to my car on that evening. People felt there was a contentious meeting, and I should wait for an escort. So that's what I was waiting for, an escort out of the building. These are times where sometimes those things happen. Anyone could have approached me at that meeting and talked to me. I have an open door policy. I'm very open and honest. I run an open and honest government. We've had forums, public hearings, open meetings, and again, I have an open door policy. For some reason, the side that is opposing me on this one issue, I don't think we have a lot of opposition on many other issues, but opposing me on this issue refuse to come and see me in my office. The few people that have had, I believe, have had a good experience, but they have to understand what meetings are about. And forums are open meetings where people come and talk. We don't make any decisions at forums, but we listen to the people.
Right.
Public hearings are hearings that people come to, and their opinions, what they have to say or what they write down, is put into a public record. And then that contingent board that's listening to them makes a decision based on those and based on various other number of issues that come before that public hearing. The public hearings are usually specific to a topic. Open meetings, as we have once a month, are business meetings of the board, which we don't have to have public comment, and we do. They're called the petitioning session. If those comments become repetitive, I can ask the people, okay, we've had a number of repetitive comments, let one person speak on the other one side, one person speak on the other side, and that'll end the open comment. Any other comments that not to those identified subject area that are repetitive, people can speak on. And again, I have an open door policy. I will meet with anyone. I will meet with people in my office. I'll meet with them in a coffee shop. I'll meet with them in downtown square. I don't have a lot of people from the opposition doing that. So I believe we have an open and honest government, and I think the people have been presented with that. They've had their time, an opportunity to speak, and I don't know what further to do along those lines.
Okay, Greg Lazzaro joining me today on the Weber Show. Again, we were expecting Lou Fara, but he's watching his grandkids. So again, if you're wondering where he is, it's a good excuse. I've been through that myself, and we're going to miss you. We've missed you already, but we'll get Lou back soon down the road. It's time to take our commercial break. Get the great sponsor to make this show possible. When we come back, we got more to talk to Greg about, some other issues. Stay with us here on Weber This Week. Acting as a gateway to the Finger Lakes, Del Lago leverages the natural beauty and unique offerings while enhancing tourism in the region. The casino features 2,000 slot machines, 89 gaming tables, including 12 poker tables, portico by Fabio Viviani, a 2,400-person entertainment center, farmers market buffet. The hotel, spa, and banquet facility will open summer 2017. Cayuga Lake National Bank. Visit Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora, a fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. I feel naked without that headset on, Jimmy. In Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her team will find the right spirit for you every time. When you stop in, tell Amy the dog sent you. Used to wearing something. The Gold Hotel welcomes you to come out and enjoy the revitalization of this historic downtown Seneca Falls landmark. Every Wednesday is Ladies' Night with special price drinks and half-priced appetizers. Learn more at thegouldhotel.com. The Omen Theater on William Street in Lyons. See what's playing this week at omentheater.com. Located off New York State Thruway Exit 41, the McGee Diner has earned their reputation as a popular family restaurant, serving country fresh home-cooked meals daily. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and check out their menu at mcgeediner.com. Seneca Meadows is an award-winning company that has earned a reputation of going above and beyond to protect the environment and support their community. As an EPA inspector once said, their operation is head and shoulders above the rest. And the Newark Pilots of the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, a minor league team with a major league ballpark. Season ticket packages available at newarkpilots.com. And the Wilson Press in Seneca Falls. My good pal Rich Rickey and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Visit them online at wpress.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's a dog with you with another edition of Weber This Week. Greg Lazzaro, my special guest this afternoon. We're talking about some of the comments made by Dave DeLalis and Doug Avery a couple of weeks ago on the Josh Dershel Show. Hey, before I go back to Greg, a couple of things. Seneca Meadows always sends these wonderful events that they put on out there, and this one is entitled, Oh Poo, How Can We Discover What Wild Animals Have Been Eating and Where They've Been Through Their Poo? Kids think it's pretty funny to talk about poo, and in this program we talk about it a lot. Scientists call it scat, but no matter what you call it, it tells us cool things about animals and what they've been up to. Come learn how to tell whose poo is whose. To register, give a call to 315-539-5624. That's Seneca Meadows Educational Center, 1977 State Route 414 in Seneca Falls. It's coming up this Saturday, November the 11th from 3 to 4 o'clock. It's free, and it's a family affair. Thank you to Marcy Newmeyer out there passing on her events. By the way, I never commented about my vision. I had my eye surgery, the cataract, and I was telling Greg I got these glasses, take them off now. I only need them when I have to read something up close. I went very well. It's life-changing. I made a comment on my Facebook page. As you all know, I lost a lot of 90% of my vision in my right eye when I was 7 at a freak accident. That was in 1952. But I'll tell you, Greg and Jim, that cataract surgery, if anybody's contemplating having it, go for it. It's about an 8-minute procedure, but they get you about an hour and a half before then to get you all ready for it. But I got to tell you, folks, I can see, which I've never been able to see a lot of things for many, many years. So thank you for all the comments about how it's been going, and it's been going great. So anybody in the audience checking me out today that's contemplating it, the dog says go for it. Well, let's get back to Greg Lazzaro. Then, by the way, we're going to talk about the election, too. We'll do that in a minute or so. Greg, Mr. DeLalis also had a comment to make relative to budgets. Basically, what you're planning on 2018. Supposedly, of the $3 million that Seneca Meadows gives us on a yearly basis, around there, you have come up with a plan to only take $1 million of that, I guess, toward the budget. You've asked your department heads to reduce their budgets next year by 10%, and from what we understand, they all have. But you also throw a caveat in there relative to the new tax rate, which is going to increase, according to Dave DeLalis, and I know you say it's not final yet, some 70%. So he's wondering why we're doing the tax increase when we're going to generate millions of dollars per him, additional monies coming into the town, versus not raising the rate and letting the taxpayers get a break. So I'll give you a chance to respond.
Well, one thing I have to say, I believe that in all of Seneca County, Seneca Falls employees are the best.
Right.
And I'll debate that with anyone, and I'll say that.
Right.
Last year, they received a 1% increase. And a lot of them are making under $20 an hour.
Right.
Which is hard to live on,
right,
especially if you're a single parent and you have kids. It's hard enough to live, but on a low salary, it makes it that much harder. So I would like to see a 2.5% increase in our employees' salaries,
right,
and I'd like to see no increase in insurance. Insurance rates are high, yes, right, they are. People need that health insurance. We've offered a different health insurance plan in employees, but they're going to have to pay more to be in it, and they understand that. But the other is they're going to have to pay into 10%. That might change in time, in a year or two down the road, if we can't get a good fix on insurance. I think that could change if we started to work with other towns and villages in Seneca County. If we work with the county instead of having an insurance base for the county and an insurance base for Lodi, insurance base for Waterloo, and we as a county should try to come together and have a consortium where the more employees you have in that consortium, the more employees taking insurance, then the rates will go down naturally. I hope to affect that in the next 2 to 3 years. And I think that would be a good factor in lowering insurance rates, not just for us, but all of Seneca County. At this point, I hope, and that's why the tax rate is going up a bit. We hope to save out $1 million to
infrastructure
for infrastructure repairs, and that is really needed for whatever reason. And I'm not blaming other people, because we're here now and we have to do something to fix it. So, infrastructure repair is costly. It's very costly. But we have to get a handle on it. We have to get a handle on open drains that are affecting the sanitary sewer system, which in a heavy rain, you go from 2 million to 10 million gallons that are pouring into our systems. And you just can't have that. So we have to fix a lot of problems that haven't been fixed for 50 years. 50 years ago, they were fine. 50 years later, they have to have some upgrades. And that's also going to be, with our upgrades, we're also going to have some economic development, because we're going to be shovel ready for businesses coming into town. Now, if I can segue onto economic development a bit, also, we need economic development to grow in this town. And people have the argument of, well, Seneca Meadows is affecting tourism, it's affecting economic development. Well, first point, tourism has gone up the last 5 years. Look at the Chamber of Commerce's records. Number two, where have we had economic development in this area? Well, you have had the Hampton Inn close to the landfill. You, Dr. Ryan's office, Country Max, AutoZone, I think it is up there, Monroe Muffler, Verizon, Bonadent, Walmart. That's 8 places that have built close to landfill. Even Waterloo Container chose to build up there because of our low tax rate. And that area has been the biggest area right adjacent to Seneca Meadows of economic development that this town has seen in the last 15 to 20 years. So I have to wonder if what people are saying is really true. If you look at the facts, it's not true. It's a misnomer. It's not a fact, and I just refuted it. So I believe that. But in order to affect more economic development in the downtown area, in the Deer Run area, we have to have that good infrastructure to be shovel ready, and that's expensive, and that's why we want to start saving some of the money we get from Seneca Meadows for infrastructure repair.
Okay. By the way, I should give you a chance to make a short comment, and wish we had time to give a long comment about the fine folks that did the water main break and all the issues we've gone through with the boiling of the water. I know Lou was going to speak on that as well when he came, if he came today. If you could give a short comment about how proud you are to have the employees working around the clock. You brought in other resources outside of the town to get that done. Give us a comment about how grateful you are, knowing how great those people are to get us back going with the water.
I just think when you have a situation like that, and you really don't know where the water main break is until you start doing some investigation and checking things out. They found where the water main break. It was a lot bigger break than they thought. And for whatever reason, and good for Seneca Falls, and I felt really bad for the other communities, Fayette, Romulus, and Varick, that they didn't get their water back for a little over 24 hours after it was discovered, more than 24 hours after it was discovered. We got our water back. There was still a boil advisory. The hyperlink went out really fast. There was a lot of communication, and we're going to, on a county level, on a town level, we're looking at that, and we're trying to do, anytime there's an emergency, you're acting.
Sure.
You're reacting to situations minute by minute, and there's always things that can be done better. Those situations, the hyperlink phone calls, perhaps you should have had a conference call, but that information, there were a lot of phone calls going out. But even if we have another emergency such as that, that will get better. But the people who responded to that worked till 5 o'clock in the morning, went home, got a couple hours sleep, washed up a bit, and came back. And the problem was finally fixed about 6 o'clock that night, where another hyperlink phone call went out, and the people were aware. What we have to do now is get people, because hyperlink is based on landlines. We have to put out the information, how you can get your number on that if you have a cell phone. Make sure the radio stations get it, make sure the newspapers get it. I even put it on a screen on TV, on a little runner, on the Rochester news station, on the other local news stations. So they did an excellent job. The boots on the ground were there immediately, and those guys worked. And that's why I don't go down there. I don't interfere, because I know they're doing their work. But I do get periodic phone calls from the Water Sewer Chief, Joe Tullo, and his men did an excellent job. And the other, the Highway Department pitched in also, so I want to thank them. And we all worked together to effect a remedy, and it was fixed.
Well, I wish we could speak for hours, but unfortunately, Jim's allowed us to go a few minutes late. Listen, I know Election Day is tomorrow, regardless of how it turns out. We still have to have a town of Seneca Falls. We still have to run it like it's a business, and run it with the, because you're still going to be the town supervisor, and Lou's going to be the deputy. Regardless of how the election turns out, I urge you, and I know Greg echoes my sentiment, please get out and vote tomorrow. But Greg, before I go to a couple quick closing comments on a couple of their topics, it has been sort of toxic, to use a term, regarding the, I'm trying to think of the right wording. You're either pro Seneca Meadows or you're against Seneca Meadows, and it's very clear. I'll be 73, God willing, in about 6-7 months, I hope. But, I've been here all my life, and I've never seen an issue that has created more fear than this issue. And I respect other people's opinion. I just think, because they're a big nut for the town of Seneca Falls to give us $2.5–3 million a year, I would hope that someday the whole town structure and your board, regardless of who's on the board, could work together to enable us to move forward and not be either you're for or you're against. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that 100%. I think before we can do that, we have to sit down. And I've been trying to sit down with the anti-group. Sure. I went and saw I went and met with the concerned citizens. They never asked me back. I would go sit down with the Environmental Action Committee, although I want to make one comment on the Environmental Action Committee.
Right.
They're an offshoot of the advisory board that I implemented when I first got elected as town supervisor. So I think there are a lot of the same people. Instead of looking at a whole spectrum of ideas, they just wanted to look at this one issue of Seneca Meadows. Right. And I wanted to look at economic development, infrastructure repair, and the issue of Seneca Meadows. Right. Where do we go from here? Because that's a big conversation in town. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we have differences of opinion, and the only way to work them out is sitting down and communicating with one another.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Thanks again for coming in. We'll have you back down the road.
Thank you, Harold.
I appreciate it. Before I sign off the air, a couple of comments regarding Clyde Savannah. Let me switch my topic from the world of politics to sports. Having been able to broadcast a lot of their football games over the years, quite a few years ago, Clyde's always been tough. They won the Class D championship title on Saturday. And our friend Derek Chance, who Jimmy certainly knows his skill set as an athlete, he was voted MVP. They're going to meet Section 6 champion Maple Grove this coming Friday night at the Far West Regional Final at SUNY Brockport. Congratulations to Clyde Savannah and continued success as they go down that road, regardless of whether you win or lose. You've made our area proud again. By the way, just to remember, Jimmy Senecropi, along with Jackie Augustine and Josh Dershel, will be hosting a show tomorrow on election around 8 o'clock until 11:30, whatever, around that time span. 8 to 11:30, I guess it's going to be Josh, Jimmy Senecropi, and Jackie Augustine will be into serve that role. Just a reminder, upcoming show next week, we're going to have the Stivers. I think I met Bob Stivers once. I'm not sure about that. He's a mover and a shaker along with his wife Donna, and of course their event coordinator. Her name is, I got it right here, Casey Fick. They all three will be in here talking about the Stiver and all of the operations that they run: boat tours, lock tours, Tiki Bar North, Stiver Seneca Marine, Lake House, Lake Street Winery, you name it. It seems like the Stivers got a stamp on everything, but they do a tremendous amount of good things for the area, not only just Geneva, but around the people that support those entities. So they will be here next week for the Weber Show. Again, get out and vote tomorrow, everybody. And I want to end by saying happy 22nd anniversary to my daughter Samantha and her business. Little Red Noses celebrates 22 years today, November the 6th. About 23 years ago, she had a dream to be a dog groomer. And she learned how to get all the different cuts, and she's turned out to be quite the dog groomer. So congratulations goes out to my daughter Samantha, 22 years today. Keep on trucking, Sammy Joe. For Greg Lazzaro and Jimmy Senecrobi, this is The Dog, bidding you a farewell. We'll catch you next week.